Mother Nature has not been kind to music festivals this year. 2024 faced a high number of event cancellations, from severe weather to postponements due to lack of funding or infrastructure. Fans and industry insiders were left disappointed time and time again. In this episode, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into what caused this year's cancellations and the impact it's had on the festival industry. What is up, you guys? Welcome to Rave Culture Cast, your weekly guide to the EDM community, music festivals, and more. I'm your host, Emma Capotis. Happy Wednesday, fam. We are almost at the end of the year here, so if I haven't said it already, happy holidays. I am so excited to be wrapping up this 7th season of Rave Culture Cast with you guys. I have possibly one or two more episodes, and this may be the last one, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you for being here, for listening, for following, and for supporting Rave Culture Cast in our 5th year, which has been crazy. I hope you guys have been enjoying the episodes this season, and I'm excited for the future and what's to come with my brand, with this brand, and with this community. So happy holidays, fam. I hope you guys have some time off coming up ahead and some time with family and relaxing and enjoying and eating all of the food. So I'm very much looking forward to the holiday season and getting a break from work. So anyways, with that all being said, I wanted to kind of wrap up the end of the year here, looking back at this past year. And one thing that came up was the amount of festival cancellations that we saw this year. And when you guys hear this list today, you probably forgot about half of these happening at this point, but shout out to my virtual assistant, Ashley. She went back through and pulled almost every single festival that was canceled this year. Up until around September, October, we compiled this list. So there's probably more that have happened, but really just wanted to discuss in this episode the impact weather has had on the festival industry, kind of chat through some of the major cancellations we saw and look back at this year, and discuss why they happened and kind of the gravity of those situations. I'll talk a little bit about how to make the best of a bad situation, and then my thoughts going into 2025 and how this could, impact festivals in the future. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. But first and foremost, if you guys want to connect with us on socials, we are at Rave Culture Cast on all of the platforms, and I am at Emma Capotis on my personal pages. So we'll link all of that if you want to support us over there down below, as well as any of our affiliate links or sponsors and stuff. But I really just want to dive straight into the episode today. So quickly, before we talk about weather, I did see this article go out this past week on DJ Mag that I thought was very fitting for this episode as well. So I wanted to touch on this. And also I got to shout out Rave Room podcast just had me on. I don't know if the episode is out yet, but I'm going to be a guest on that podcast. And we talked a lot about the UK Raven festival scene. So this kind of is fitting with that as well. But DJ Mag just posted this article titled 72 UK festivals canceled or postponed in 2024, which is double that of 2023. So I thought this was a really interesting article because there's a lot happening overseas with this as well. And a lot of this article talks more about kind of the impact, the economic impacts of COVID and the pandemic, and how many events had to close, their doors after that. And, just a shift in what people are spending their money on, and some of these iconic festivals not coming back versus some of the smaller independent festivals not being able to have the funding to bring them back. So they're working more in the UK with the local government to try and get funding and find ways to save these events, because they do bring a lot of money into the local markets and towns there when these weekends happen. Think about how much money these cities make when we all flock there and book hotels and travel and all of that. So yeah, so I thought that was a really interesting article that I'll link below. It's super short, but they just talk about it says since 2019, just under half, 96 festivals were lost during the coronavirus pandemic, which is crazy. It said 2024 began with early warnings from the AIF, which is the Association of Independent Festivals. Sorry, guys, if I have a lisp, I have my Invisalign in. I just put it in yesterday. And it said, the reasons of these festivals kind of closing down sustained and slow burning economic impacts of COVID-19, high inflation since lockdown, restrictions on travel and gatherings have eased, and changes in consumer behavior and trends, which, I mentioned this just because I feel like a lot of things are similarly happening in the United States. We have a couple really big festival promoters and organizers, but we do have a ton of amazing small independent organizations as well. And, without jumping the gun here, there's some this year that were canceled due to weather. There have been some that have just like altogether stopped and we've never seen them again. And then there have been some that have like skipped a year, right? Like we have Okeechobee, which I loved Okeechobee in 2023, didn't come back this year. And then they recently announced they're not coming back in 2025 either, but they're hoping to return in 2026. So some festivals just need to go back, regroup, rethink about how they're going to be doing their festivals in the future. I know Imagine Music Festival didn't come back this year. So there are a lot of small organizations where they're like operating on their own without the funding of a major like AEG or Insomniac or, even Disco Donnie. And it's just crazy. I think it's important for me to have like the whole ecosystem. So you have different organizers and you have different events you can go to, whether you're into camping festivals or you like city or you like bass music. Like I think it's great to have all different types of organizers, which is why next year I'm actually excited to do some new events and have some new coverage for you. But more about that in a new episode. I'm going to Coachella and TBD, fingers crossed right now. I'm getting Tomorrowland tickets in 2 weeks, so that will be a completely different experience for me. But just wanted to throw that DJ Mag article out there. So as we get into this, before we go through the list of festival cancellations that we compiled, I did want to talk a little bit about weather and how Mother Nature, she can do whatever she wants to do, but she did not love festivals this year. I'm not going to lie to you. Whether it was like full-blown entire event is canceled, a delayed opening, maybe just one day was canceled, maybe it was canceled early. Like we saw like the whole, every type of thing that could possibly happen, I feel like this year with weather. But I wanted to call this out and I will link this down below. I did an episode of my old podcast, was called Festival Insider Podcast. I did that with Michael Julian. He was my co-host on that. We did this really interesting episode that I'll like never stop talking about because it just was like a very interesting topic to talk about, where we went into like the logistics of planning a festival and, the background of it. So we spoke to Scott Dennison, who is a music festival risk assessment and contingency planner, which is a really interesting job. So his job was literally to assess like international and local risk, and communicate that to the staff and do the strategic planning around the festivals. So he would talk about the planning of like large scale events and how to make sure that they're safe and what they're looking at. They're looking for threats online. They're talking about like the flow of traffic. They're looking at medical staffing, any other security risks, weather. They're working with local meteorologists. So I'll link that below. It was just so interesting to hear the inner workings of like the staff that they have and like what they're planning. So that to me was just more eye-opening from like a fan to having more industry knowledge to see like, okay, like all of this planning is happening. Like a festival doesn't just like snap their fingers and, oh, we're going to cancel this because it's raining. Like it's not that easy of a decision for them to make. So I just want to say that before we dive into everything. Like no one wants their festival canceled. Like your experience is ruined, the organizers, the staff, everyone that's there. The money loss, like it's just no one wants that to happen. So they work with meteorologists who are like looking at the weather, looking what's coming up, and if it's severe enough and they think it's going to be a threat to you, to the infrastructure, to the stages. Like you've all seen those videos on TikTok where international festivals have had gusts of wind come in and like whip pieces of staging off and hit people in the crowd, and some people have been killed. Like it can be very, very serious. So, there's all types of things that can happen, and these roles do exist at festivals, and they bring people like this on to assess, do we have to cancel? Do we have to have a delayed opening? Do we have to, let people out early and dismiss them and then they can come back if the weather clears over? That happened with Electric Forest. So, yeah, I wanted to mention that. I'll link that episode below if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about risk assessment. But with that being said, let's talk about the cancellations that happened this year. Because again, I'm going back to February, which is kind of like when festival season starts to ramp up, I would say like March to me is when like festival season really kicks off. But going back as early as February, we had some cancellations. So I'm going to quickly just like go through these one at a time. But the first one that we had seen was Body Language in Arizona. Anybody remember that? This was less than weeks before it started. Body Language posted something that due to unforeseen circumstances, they had the difficult decision to suspend the upcoming festival. People were going to get refunded. So we really didn't get much information on why that happened. But again, with some of these smaller organizations, I don't know if it's a financial thing, maybe the infrastructure didn't come in, maybe they didn't get everything that they needed, but they pulled that festival. So that was back in February, on February 10th of this year. The next one was Firefly. So this was very beginning of the year as well. In February, they posted that they would not return in 2024. And then they posted, we look forward to powering Firefly's lights back on someday when the timing is right. But until then, the Woodlands will continue to host new music events for years to come. Keep on dancing, fam. So we don't have any kind of updates as far as I know on Firefly returning. I actually never got to attend Firefly. It's over here on the East Coast. I think it's in Delaware. So that's another one of those that was like a staple festival for a really long time. But yeah, there was just like speculation around them and their finances and, them not being able to recover after COVID. So that's another one of those like more independent organizations where, if they're not powered by anything major, it's a little harder for them to fund. So I'm hopeful for Firefly. I actually would love to see it come back, and I would love to attend it one day. Okay, who remembers the weather issues at Ultra? Going back to March of last year, Ultra had weather issues, guys. I remember watching people's stories when this was happening, when it was like torrentially raining. So they posted during the weekend an alert. There was severe weather, lightning, strong winds, and they temporarily shut it down on Friday. So I just remember seeing like the floods of posts of people saying that like it was just like torrentially downpouring and all that. So that was like severe weather, nothing you can do. It's Florida. Florida is probably one of the most unpredictable places to have festivals because of weather. So that was on March 22nd. On March 28th, shortly after, we had the message from Imagine Music Festival, which Imagine Music Festival has faced its controversies in the past. I will say they've had all kinds of numbers of issues, but they posted back in March, and usually Imagine is in September, so that's how much time they gave, that they were taking a pause this year to improve the overall experience. And I don't think we've seen anything since. To be honest, I haven't clicked on their page in a while, but I do not see anything. Yeah, that was the last post they did. They have not posted since then, but they did say see you in 2025, so we shall see. They have plenty of time if they do choose to come back in September. In March, this was another post from Imagine's. This was on Festival. So allegedly, according to Festival Owl, after that post, they said they were hearing more and more sources today about Imagine's hiatus and future of the event. Imagine has attempted to sell the festival since last year, with one buyer emerging, but after disagreements on final details, the offer eventually fell through and no other prospective buyers have emerged. The event remains in significant debt, and many people have still not been paid for services they rendered for it. Yeah, that's according to Festive Owl. In my opinion, I have also seen a lot of people posting on social media that they never received refunds and things like that. So, who's to say what's the future of Imagine Music Festival? It's a similar situation, I feel like, to what happened with like Electric Zoo. But that all happened back in March. So that was not really weather related. Although, if you remember, I think it was 2021 maybe, because the last Imagine I did was 2022. I think 2021 was when they flat out canceled the entire weekend from weather as well. So they've had like a lot of issues that they've had to come up against. This was another one that was I felt so bad for this one that happened. I remember because our beatbox team was out there. I think this was the final day of Texas Eclipse, this was the first time this event ever happened. It was a Disco Donnie event. It was all based around the Texas Eclipse that was literally happening. It was all kind of genres, absolutely massive camping festival, huge undertaking. And because it was in its first year, you're always going to have the naysayers of like, this isn't going to go well, something's going to happen. I feel like people were putting like bad juju on it from the beginning, but I had friends who went who loved it. They ran into severe weather at the end of the event. So they posted, due to severe weather, they had to cancel the remainder of the festival. So the forecast was predicting high winds, tornado activity, large hail, thunderstorms. So they, with like the local authorities, decided to dismiss the event. So they posted that. So I just remembered that ending on like a sour note, but the people who I know that went had a great time before that happening. And there were all kinds of like emergency issues that they were like dealing with. And I don't know, I feel like there's so many rumors that flood these things that it's like, I feel like you just need to wait a couple of days to get like official responses and official wording from the festivals before you just go on social media and start like blasting things that have happened. That's my personal opinion. I just like to wait because I think people just, rumors spread so quickly in this scene. It's crazy. Okay, moving along. Now we're getting into spring. In April, on April 29th, Backwoods Festival had canceled. They gave a whole reason, post everything, which was really transparent. They announced the cancellation of Backwoods 2024. They cited rising production costs, labor, and overall business expenses, coupled with a change in consumer buying patterns and economic conditions post-COVID have rendered the production of this event impossible at this point to sustain. We no longer see a path to a successful event this year and need to make the hard decision to cancel the event. So I feel like this is another one of those instances where, again, literally all the reasons they listed is just like if they're not seeing the ticket sales there, if they're not seeing this being profitable in any way, or that they're going to be losing a ton of money and they're not going to be able to give you the experience you deserve, I think it's better to pull it than to try having it. The next one I have down here was May 15th. Nightmare Festival announced a hiatus. Actually, I'm not that familiar with this festival. But they posted that people were basically waiting for an announcement about the festival, and they finally posted that they made the difficult decision not to bring it back in 2024. It said, "We understand the significance this festival has had to many of you as well as our staff. There are countless memories we've shared together. Camp Bramblewood holds a special place in our heart as one of our favorite venues. We're so grateful to work with them." And then this was their reason. They said, "To highlight the main reason for our decision, our gold standard has always been to deliver a premium festival experience at a great value while keeping safety and staff morale as a priority. However, since bringing Nightmare Festival back to Camp Bramblewood in 2021, we've had to scale back production value as well as staffing levels to meet the astronomical rise in operational costs. These changes have caused resulting strain on our staff, management, and other resources, which makes our decision to abstain from hosting the event until economic circumstances improve." So yet again, another example of, I'm mainly doing this website just to like show you guys the impact the pandemic had on the festival industry, and not in any, I don't want to say this like justifying any other festivals rising costs, because each one individually is making those decisions, but just so you guys realize like what is going on behind the scenes, and especially for the smaller, more independent festivals, why prices might be rising so that they can continue to happen. A lot of other ones are, money grabs for sure. Okay, June 18th, we get an EZoo announcement, guys. This is the first time we've heard from EZoo in this whole fucking time. They finally posted an announcement to their community talking about the issues surrounding EZoo 2023. And then at this time, they just apologized for the delay in their communication. And then they talked about who was eligible for a refund and how to go about getting that refund. So I just plugged that in here because that was their final apology and addressing the delay in refunds that people were getting. Now we're getting to June. I feel like this is more fresh in our minds, but if any of you guys were at Electric Forest this year, you dealt with your hand of weather issues, and I felt bad for all my friends who were there because Forest is such a beautiful festival, and I feel like a lot of people still had the most amazing time last year, but weather was definitely a damper, no pun intended. I believe there were two separate things that happened. I think there was one night where it was a delay and people had to exit the venue and go back in, and that had to shift some set times. And then unfortunately, the last final night was canceled. I believe it was open for a couple hours and then they had to literally cancel the entire rest of the night. So they posted, "It is with a heavy heart that we announce our time in Forest has ended early. Due to tonight's weather, the venue will not reopen. Thank you, Forest family." People were heartbroken. They were very upset. I feel like, I don't know why I just got chills thinking about that. I just feel so bad when this happens because you're just so hopeful and you are so excited for your final night, and you've got all the planning, you've had all the, like, it sucks for everyone involved. It sucks, point blank period, no other way to say it. When an event gets canceled because of weather or other issues, it sucks. Alrighty, moving on with the rest of the year. After Electric Forest, the next one we saw was Lucidity Festival. This was in August, on August 31st. Oh my God, this is such a long post. I'm not going to read this whole thing. But they posted it with incredible heavy hearts today that they have decided our journey together has come to an end. Despite our best efforts, we've forced to make the difficult decision to close our doors and cease operations. So this was a total, we're not coming back post. So they just talked about the family and the community that they had grown. And again, I sound like an echo chamber right now, but they said, given the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, that marked the beginning of their financial struggles, but they persevered. Then they said the severe weather they faced in 2023 tested their resilience, but they continued forward. However, this year, 2024, just weeks before the event, an unforeseen last-minute change in requirements by the county made it impossible for them to proceed, leading to the postponement that we cannot financially recover from, which breaks my heart to hear that. There's just so many things out of people's hands as well, guys. Like, there are certain areas, there are certain counties that do not like and support the events that are happening there. How many times have we heard Ultra going up against Miami? So many times. They're trying to boot them out of there. Sometimes there are just changes that are like out of our control, and things like this happen. So it sounds like the Lucidity Festival will not be returning, unfortunately. Next one, this is kind of like getting towards the end of the list here. In September now, the Same But Different Festival. Also, this was a separate post. I liked that they did this. So Same But Different Festival, after the cancellation of Lucidity Festival, announced that they were going to be offering free tickets to any Lucidity ticket holders, which I just like pat on the back. I think that that's incredible to offer that. So they did a post. Same But Different is a festival that happens in Lake Paris in California. It's really pretty. It's like on a lake. It's a smaller festival. But I thought this was beautiful. So they said, in the spirit of supporting the festival community, the Same But Different team came together to explore how we could help. After much discussion, we've decided to honor 2025 Lucidity Festival tickets by offering a free, non-transferable general admission ticket, which is really fucking cool. So I think, like, what a way to go about, like, turning things around. Okay, this one hurts the soul. Nocturnal Wonderland, fam. You guys got canceled like literally days before, if not 2 days before. This was wildfires that screwed up y'all's weekend, which California, as Festival put it, nature strikes again, unfortunately. This sucked. We had planned a really cool activation for you guys with Beatbox. I was so excited about it. This was like an idea me and my coworker Taylor had came up with that was going to be really cool, and we were so excited to see it happen and come to life, especially for all of you guys who this is your favorite festival and you look forward to it. So at first, I think they put out a notice saying they were moving forward with the festival when the wildfires were happening, but then unfortunately they had to make the decision to completely cancel the entire event. So it said, we're saddened to inform you that the new fires in the San Bernardino area have ignited over the past 36 hours and now are approaching the Glen Helen Amphitheater. The health and safety of festival attendees and staff is our highest priority, and after further discussion with local authorities, they basically said they were unable to proceed, which, of course, at the end of the day, as frustrated as people are, none of y'all want to be involved in any sort of wildfire situation. So I think they made the right call there 100%. Even like the air quality and things like that, if that wasn't going to be good, and if they cannot give you the appropriate festival that you guys deserve, then it shouldn't happen. Okay, last few. These are all wild, to be honest with you again. EDC China was canceled due to the arrival of an impending typhoon. Mother Nature, what are y'all doing out here? This is wild. So EDC China completely canceled it. It was supposed to happen September 15th and 16th, and there was the impending arrival, that sounds horrifying, of Typhoon Babinka. Typhoon Babinka was the name, which has entered the East China Sea and is expected to make landfall during the festival dates. So in accordance with the festival and local authorities, they decided to cancel the festival. That's fucking wild that's even a headline. And then the last two here, I had to I had to mention Lost Lands. Lost Lands was a big one. Not any major festivals, not any major weather issues, but there was severe droughts in the area, which basically they had to cancel any pyro at Lost Lands this year, which y'all know how that went. No cigarettes, no nothing, no lighting up anything in the area because there could be wildfires that would start from it. So that was like a whole thing that Lost Lands was posting in advance, like no artists, there would be no pyro used, which it's a bass music festival. Like, how do you not have pyro? So that was just another fucking wrench thrown in the plan that no one could have predicted. And then the last one I have here, guys, again, this was going back through like early October that I pulled, was South Star Festival. South Star Festival, the final day was completely canceled, and it was due to rain and mud from Hurricane Helene, which didn't even get into everything canceled because of the hurricanes that happened in Florida and nearby areas in the fall. But that was like a whole other thing once you get into hurricane season. And again, you know, at Beatbox, we sponsor a lot of these festivals, and I had my coworkers out there at South Star, so that sucked when, you know, we got the call that the final day was canceled. So Hurricane Helene came in. So we've got severe weather, wildfires, hurricanes, typhoons. What else popped up? Tornadoes, high winds, and then just sheer 3-4 years later have not recovered from the pandemic. Have had local authorities or the county change rules last minute. Like, they're, again, knock on wood, I really hope that next year, you can't predict any of this stuff, but I just hope that Mother Nature is kind to us in 2025 and none of us have to deal with these kind of scenarios, but things happen. And, you know, this is just like a recap of, you know, and I'm sure I missed a bunch of what happened in 2024, but kind of my closing thoughts on this again is just to illuminate the logistics of festival organizers and all the behind the scenes things that happen. And it's not just the fans that, you know, feel the impacts of it. Like, if, you know, it's the staffing, the performers, the vendors on site, the sponsors of it, like every single person, it's a trickle down effect, is going to feel the effect of something being canceled, a day, a weekend, everything. And, you know, I applaud the organizers who have pulled things because it wasn't going to be safe or it wasn't going to be the level of production that y'all deserved. Like, I just hope that event organizers can come back. It really sucks to see a lot of these, you know, saying they don't know the future of their events or they're not going to come back. But I hope that the other ones can recoup, come back, and be the festivals that you guys know and love. So, yeah, not much we can prepare for next year. We can just manifest and keep our fingers crossed and hope things go well. But, you know, for some of these organizers and the smaller independent festivals, if you see rising costs and ticket prices and things like that, like, this is kind of where that's coming from for a lot of them. So the effects of, you know, the pandemic and years after, like, they are still feeling that very, very much. I know, like, local nightlife is feeling that as well. So yeah, I hope in the future we can see things turn around. I hope that we have some good weather. Like I mentioned, I have 2 festivals right now fully booked. I'm going on Groove Cruise in January, which I'm so excited for. It's my second Groove Cruise and I'm so freaking pumped. And I have Coachella Weekend 1, my first time. I'm very excited to experience that. I have never seen a Coachella production before, so excited to just see something different. And then hopefully I'll be at Tomorrowland Weekend 1. That's the game plan right now, and that will be my first international festival. So I'm very, very excited to see how they run things, given that they are like the number one premier festival in the world. It's going to be incredible. The detail-oriented designs and production and everything they do looks incredible. So anyways, you guys, if this was informative, if you found this valuable, please consider sharing this today. Make it your Instagram stories and tag at Rave Culture Cast. You know, rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. Very, very much appreciate you. And I will link a couple of the resources as well down below in the comments if you want to check out the other podcasts I mentioned in some of the articles I'm going to link. So I hope you guys have an incredible holiday season. Again, I may have 1 or 2 other episodes coming out. I'm not really sure, but thank you again for an incredible 2024 season 7 of the podcast. It's been amazing, you guys. Love you so much, and I will see you in my next episode. Bye, guys.